Well, it's great to be here at NAB because I actually haven't been out to the one on the West Coast in several years just because of availability and scheduling. So, and it's great to be part of the SOC panel. I'm a big supporter of the SOC and have been for some time. So, like Dave said, it's great to actually go see your friends because we're never on set together, you know. So get to hear what they have to say is fun. And I'm looking forward to wandering the hall after this and seeing what new toys are out there. I mean, I look at it as all tools in the shed, and the more tools you have in the shed, the easier it is to do certain things. But I try not to get too obsessed with the specifics on tools. I mean, as a Steadicam guy, you inevitably buy your gear and you own your gear. But my rule with gear in general is the more invisible it is to me, the better. Meaning, I just want it to work, and I want it to better aid in what I do. But I try not to really get too bogged down with it. When I first saw one, I was like, "That's the coolest thing ever." It's like this real physical thing. It's mental. And it just moves a camera in a way that's a little different than any other device moves a camera. Any shot starts with a story. You know, it is a story. So why are you using that tool? What's the story you're trying to tell? And what Steadicam does quite well, although you can do it with other devices, of course, is lets you continue a story in one shot. You know, the oneer, if you will. And if that can be done on a dolly, great. Use a dolly because if you, at best, your Steadicam shot's going to look like a dolly shot. So if it can be done on a dolly, you do it on a dolly. So it goes back to the tools thing. But Steadicam certainly allows you, you know, a smooth shot with the flexibility of being able to go around corners or you know, change it. You know, or if maybe you are doing a scene with an actor where you don't want to bog them down with a mark, and the terrain doesn't allow for, you know, dance floor or, you know, moving a dolly easily. So you're doing it on a Steadicam for that reason. There's a lot of different reasons to use it. I think everybody wants more time. I mean, it's funny because in the era of HD, in the current climate of episodic television, it seems like you rehearse a lot less than you used to, and we're, you know, the page counts are higher. So, but talking to guys like you remind us how good we have it, I suppose. I like to do different things. I like to be challenged. I just did my well, maybe it's not technically my first half-hour comedy, but I do most of these very serious stuff. And I just did a show called The Detour as the A-camera operator, and it's actually season 2 of a show I had nothing to do with season 1. That was shot elsewhere, and sort of the theme of the show is they have a theme by the season, and this season they're in New York. But it was fun, very different than anything I've done. A lot more cross coverage. I tend to do, you know, most drama you do one side and then you light and turn around and do the other side. It was good to go to work every day and laugh. It's different. It's, there's a reason, you know, okay, both cameras now have to be a little more off the eye line. Not everything is about your shot. It's about 2 shots or 3 shots now. So that can be, but you know, you embrace that. It's like, okay, cool, we're doing something different, and now you're working with the crew to make sure 2 sides of the room look right instead of 1 or what have you. I think too. I mean, even though we still call all these shows single camera shows, almost every single camera show is really 90% of the time they're rolling 2 cameras. So you know, I think it's if it makes the day faster and it makes sense, or helps the director tell a story better, or helps an actor through a tough moment or something, then absolutely use 2 cameras. If it takes more time to be using 2 cameras, don't do it. And there are times when it takes longer to do 2 cameras. It just makes more sense to, you know, do 2 passes with 1 camera. You can swap a lens between the 2 passes because only 1 camera can occupy 1 space. So, if you spend all day trying to squeeze 2 cameras, then maybe, it depends. It really depends on the show and the style. The biggest thing is I got to watch season 1. I've actually never done it that way before. So I was like, oh, a lot of times on a show, I haven't done the pilot. So I just get to see the pilot as a reference. But that's it. And then you start a show. So to get to watch a season was great because it was very fun. I my kind of humor too, so it was very funny. Well, I think you try to make it your own within the confines of filmmaking, which is not really a one-person medium anyway. So I don't think it really changed a whole. I don't know if it changed that part of my process much at all. It's still you're working with a director and a director of photography. In the case of that particular show, our lead actor is executive producer, and there's less voices than some episodic television, and that's great because you get on the same, you work with them on that vision, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I usually it always starts with a script. I read a script, then I'll talk to the director of photography about what they want to do, and with luck, I talk to the director ahead of time as well. They don't generally bring operators and location scouts or that sort of thing. So a lot of times I'm not meeting a director until the first day of a shoot, which is interesting, but that's frequently the way it works now. But then if something catches my eye in the script, I'll ask specifically, how do you want to do that? Oh, I see there's a jogging scene in Central Park. What are we thinking? An electric car to do that? Or, do we want to be moving with the actor, or is it long lens? That type of thing. But a lot of different people. I mean, you certainly see a lot of the same faces if you've been doing it for as long as I have here in New York. A lot of the same faces. But I work with a lot of different DPs and therefore a lot of different directors, and then people reappear that you haven't seen in 20 years. You're like, oh, hey. I have been on projects where they bring you on the scout, but yeah, generally it's a money thing. People, a lot of times too, operators aren't hired that far out by the time. So generally, by the time I'm on a project, the director of photography and the director have been talking for a while, which is fun. And then you just tune in to that conversation, become part of that conversation. I mostly focus on being an operator, on being a well-rounded operator who can do anything from, and I love operating. And, there's an old half joke that we have the best job on set because we go home when it's a wrap. We're in at call. We go home when it's a wrap. We don't have to deal with all the stuff that tends to follow DPs home at night. So.
That was the best. That's my favorite part of the day.
I mean, I love lighting. I had a job at a lighting rental house. I had a brief career as an electrician before I got into camera because I wanted to learn it. But I love operating, whether it's Steadicam or on a dolly or a techno crane, handheld. It's fun. I wanted to be a storyteller of some sort. I originally assumed as a kid I would want to get into directing. And then I think I thought more about being a DP, through college and all that. But then I just fell in love with operating, and Steadicam is such a beautiful way it's a beautiful tool. I have a wife who's always right. Yes, Jarnigan is always right. But, it's fabulous. I mean, I did my first reel, ironically, I got a reel together. I hadn't done one in like 4 years. First one in like 4 years, the Steadicam reel. And I got it together right before I was on this camera operator panels for Local 600. I was like, I'll use that as an excuse, as a deadline. Because if I'm going to show a reel, I'm not going to show the one that's 4 years old. And, by the time, I do a rough cut, and she was the harshest critic on it in the best kind of way. I ended up completely swapping some clips out, and she made it a lot better. So it's good. Ideally, you always have a good relationship with your actors as an 8-camera operator, whether it's film or HD, but certainly with H, with HD and the tents and the monitors, a lot of times the DP is further away than they used to be, and or the director, so it makes it that much more important for the camera operator to have that kind of relationship with the actors. Like I always say the camera operator is the front line, because the first thing the actor sees when they look up is you. So. Oh, I met my wife, Jarnigan, on a set. I came to New York to replace a friend of mine to shoot a short film. I was living in Boston, Mass at the time, and he got like a real paying job, and I was like, oh, I haven't been to New York in years. I'll go to New York and shoot a short film, and she was my gaffer, and that's technically the second time we met, but the first time I'll save for another. No, ironically, I'll tell that story quickly too. While she was still in college, I was working in a lighting rental house, and I ended up, my boss was going to rent some lights to this NYU film shooting in Rhode Island. He's like, will you go out and be the gaffer, make sure my gear's doesn't get busted? So I went out, and I remember she walked up to me day one and was like, you're the gaffer. I'm General. I want to do what you do. And we lost touch because, that was a few days, and then we re-met on the story I just told.
And so and you connected the first experience to the second?
Oh yeah, no, we remembered each other well. I mean, we kept in touch a little bit, in the interim of, I guess it was 4 or 5 years. We kept in touch a little, but then fell out of touch. So
cool.
So and then no, I called her up. I was like, because I inherited her as a gaffer because she was already hired. And I was like, oh, Gendra Robinson, I know that name. So I called her up, left her a message on the machine, and she calls me back. Of course, it's me. And yeah.
She must have been a pretty good gaffer.
Yeah, she's great. And I'm slowly working my way backwards. She works her way up. I figure by the time she's producing, I'll be a PA because I was the DP and she was a gaffer.